Well, I've been gone a couple weeks. We have been enjoying Audrey very much. She is a beautiful, beautiful little girl, and we thank you so much for all of your prayers and thoughts and cards. We can't wait to introduce her to you guys. She's at home right now with Mom. Mom was here at 8:30 service, but without Audrey, so don't think you missed anything. But Audrey's been home with Oma, so Krista's mom. So it's been a fun time. So, and if I look like I'm falling asleep in the middle of the service, just nudge me, and I'll stay awake.
That's why you're preaching.
Yeah, keep me awake. Maybe that's why Krista came to 8:30 to get a nap in. I don't know. I don't know how you are with your cars. I've had several cars. I'm not going to say that proudly that I have had several cars, because I've had a history of maybe not treating the cars as well as I should have. Don't tell my father how I treated my car in high school, but it was not well. But a car that I've had in recent years, a beautiful, beautiful 1995 or 96, that's how much I know, a blue Cutlass Sierra Oldsmobile. A great car. I'm pretty sure that was the car that sealed the deal for Krista to want to marry me. But it was a great car. Lots of good memories. And I did lots of dumb things to it and probably didn't take care of it as well as I should have. And now you're going to be lucky enough to hear a story about me not taking care of this vehicle. We were living in Kentucky. It was just probably in the first year or so that we were living there. And Chris and I were very adventurous, I think, when we moved down there. We were a new state. I remember spending an afternoon at the Kentucky State Museum. I want to put that high on your list to do, but we were there. But one of the things that we discovered was a dollar theater in Danville, Kentucky. If you're in Kentucky, it's actually Danville. But we're north of the Ohio River, so Danville, Kentucky. It was a dollar theater. It was probably about a half an hour to 45-minute drive to get there, and but it was worth it because it was $1. And it didn't matter what was playing, we still went. But it was on this trip that it was a really cool drive, and in Kentucky there's lots of hills and lots of valleys, and there was a section of road that went from hilltop to hilltop, and the valley was in between. A bridge connected it, and so it was really cool because it just opened up to 4 lanes. You go down, and then you go across the bridge, and then you go up. It was also on this bridge. It was also on this drive one time, and on this bridge, that as we were going down to the bridge, that this fine piece of machinery, the blue Oldsmobile Cutlass, decided to just cut out. And so I'm sure Krista was doing one of these, the clenching thing, while I was just calm and collective and pulled the car over and thought in my head, I'll just put it in park, turn it off, and turn it back on, and it'll work. And my thinking was correct. And that's about as the extent of my automobile mechanics there, is just thinking if it'll start, it'll start. Luckily enough, it started up, and as we went on with the trip, Krista reminded me more than once that I needed to take this car into the shop and get it fixed. And I hurt her, I think, but I also remember that my thinking of putting it in park and starting it worked, so why get it fixed? And so that actually isn't the story. That's actually the forward to the story. Now, I'm not the most reliable person. Sometimes I'm maybe even considered a procrastinator. So a month and a half later, when I was driving this beautiful, fine piece of machinery, blue Oldsmobile Cutlass, there was a little road that I always like to take, and it went down, and then it went up. I went down, and the car stopped, or cut out, and I started to go up. And then the car stopped. I was stuck on a 45-degree angle in my car. And thinking in my head, put it in park, turn the ignition, it'll work, right? It didn't. So there I was on a 45-degree angle. Now I'm an Indiana boy. I know that I root for some strange sports teams in Indiana's mind, but I'm an Indiana boy. And Indiana's pretty flat. And so thinking in my Indiana mind, seeing a driveway about 20 yards in front of me, all you have to do is jump out, because that's what we do in Indiana. If our car's not working, we just get out of the car, and we push it off to the side, and we wait for help. That's what we do in Indiana. There's no hills. Well, I was on a 60-degree angle. The angle's getting larger. I was on a 60-degree angle, and I just thought, I'll jump out of the car, put it in neutral, jump out of the car, and push it up to this driveway 20 yards in front of me. So I put it in neutral. I open the door, take my foot off the brake, and I jump out of the car to push up a 75-degree angle. A 1-ton car. As the car began to push me back, and as one of my shoes fell off, my cat-like reflexes kicked in, and I jumped back into the car, and I put my foot on the brake. And I was stuck on this hill, and I was hopeless. Now, I wish I could sit here today and say that all hopeless situations dealt with cars. But they don't. We find ourselves in the midst of hopelessness when we have loss of work, when we have loss of a friend, when we have a loss of a loved one. We find ourselves in the midst of hopelessness. So often we can go to the Word and we find Scripture that we can relate to. Today we open the Word to Psalm 77. And we hear this individual crying out to God because they find themselves in the midst of a hopeless situation. They find themselves in the midst of hopelessness. Listen to the words of God.